In one word, phenomenal.
Its maneuverability. I enjoyed flying it.
It is quite the perfect machine for us to be using right now for our basic training.
I went home, I practiced. I was always practicing. As I was driving home, I was running sequences through my head. The 505, I've always been impressed by its ability to have full fuel, full packs, pick up vertically, no challenges whatsoever, and we're just booking it across the island.
Having such an open cockpit is almost like you yourself is flying because of the minimal screens and equipment that's in front of you.
When you consider the hot environment of Jamaica and the fact that it is very easy for an overtemp to happen upon startup, it is very critical that we have a FADEX system with the basic platform that is required for pilots to learn on. And the Bell 505 provides that. Hot starts aren't something that we have to be concerned about again.
But it is still one of my favorite aircraft to work on. I always tell myself, the designers and the engineers were actually thinking of us as maintainers when they were designing this aircraft, because everything is directly in front of you.
The aircraft was a really good aircraft to fly, very forgiving, but also it was so well powered, easy to understand. The avionics made things a lot easier, especially when it came on to instrument flying and flying at night.
Once you master the hover, you basically master the Bell 505. The advanced maneuvers became a lot easier after learning to hover. You want to get the hovering out the way so you can head to the fun stuff.
When learning to fly helicopters, power management is a very critical thing to learn from the pilots. And what I find with the Bell 505, because it has such a great power-to-weight ratio, you find that it is very difficult for a student pilot to overtorque a Bell 505 platform. And that, in and of itself, is very great for basic training.
What I will say for the 505, it was a very easy aircraft to learn. Having the Garmin within the cockpit, easy to read the various instruments and assimilate. You get what you need to learn how to fly an aircraft. You don't want to get too much caught up inside the aircraft when you're learning. You got to be outside the aircraft, visually flying.
In terms of power, we had more power than we actually needed for such a small aircraft. And hot start, it wasn't a thing. So what I found is that having such a larger margin to play with, the instructors were able to, take a little bit more of a hands-off approach. So that's where the confidence will eventually start growing. Once you get to practicing going into like confined areas and such, because you have a larger power margin now, you don't need to worry about getting into an area, and the likelihood of you not getting out is unlikely.
I think learning to autorotate on a 505 is very forgiving. It doesn't fall too fast. So you have time to appreciate what's going on, appreciate the attitude of the aircraft that's required. And when it comes to the flare, I think it gives a lot of energy in the flare, or maintain a lot of energy in the flare, providing that you're doing it correctly or within the required parameters.
Doing auto rotations in that platform is just nice and smooth. It offers just a nice glide coming in. And even when I conduct them all the way to the ground, it is just an awesome experience.
Once you're very current on the 505, you have no issues in handling the 429?
Yes, I think the 505 was the perfect training aircraft to get that smooth transition to the Bell 429. The Bell 429 has augmentation system, so there's not much hands and feet needed as compared to the 505. Coming out of that rotorcraft training with the hands and feet from the 505 definitely gave me a boost to come on the Bell 429.
It was a seamless transition.
One of the key things we appreciate is the fact that we have a glass cockpit in the Bell 505, and that makes the transition to the Bell 429 pretty seamless.
That standout moment for me was my first Bell 505 solo. That was like 10-15 flights in. It was quite shocking, but the preparedness that took me to those 10-15 flights for that solo, I had the confidence that I could fly solo. The departing to the training area that we had, While on the way out, I saw some kids on the ground. I was looking out doing my checks and I saw some kids waving and jumping. And then I looked back inside the cockpit and I realized it's just me flying. So that really got me excited, brought me through that solo. Those first initial flights were really, really challenging because that's when you learn to hover and learn like the basic controls of the Bell 505. But it's just the determination and the enthusiasm that I had to fly the Bell 505 that pushed me through.